So we have capabilities, but those capabilities are required to fit a lawful requirement. So if, again, a lot of people don't have a clue about anything, and they're always complaining about what law enforcement's doing and why this and why that. First, they demand everybody be free from unlawful search and seizure. They demand privacy rights, and then they go, "Well, why didn't you infringe on those rights?" So again, if they're going to enter into the subject of the investigation's life, they better have reasonable suspicion and more. A more better option is probable cause. They said he's an intelligent person. Obviously, he was criminally intelligent to a certain degree. I don't have all the data, but it appears he knew how to stay under the radar screen. Now, the question is, was somebody or something leading him along? And I bring that up a lot because I've had that done to me where it tried to lead me into something. And again, could have been CIA, could have been FBI, could have been anybody. They're cronies, Brennan's cronies. So I'm going to cut some potatoes here. I'm on kitchen patrol. So the sister, a lot of people, like, they were looking at what the sister said. The sister didn't call FBI and say my brother said something. And if she did, they'd go, well, that could mean anything. What makes you think we need to talk to him? Now, she didn't have the other information that he bought guns. Well, there's a reason the sister said that, and there's a reason why the sister didn't call. Or she said it the way she said it during the post-crime investigation. When you investigate family for something like that, or I don't say, I guess investigate, but if when you question the family, you have to be cognizant of the fact that these are people generally with lives. And the last thing they want is for you to think that they're anything like their brother or their son. So in a way, there's a kind of a betrayal that goes on. And you have to be cognizant of that when speaking, because then one of the questions would have been, well, why didn't you call us about that? I mean, did you not have concern about it? Because I don't even have concern. Again, I don't know if I'm looking at the exact words, but I don't even have concern about what he said. I'm going to fix the system, and that's nothing. FBI sees that every day. That can mean almost anything. Now, of course, if she had called, they might send somebody out if they had somebody to send, because there's people that are talking about doxing ICE, people that are angry at Trump and angry at Vance and, angry at Ilhan Omar. Because remember, they're also investigating those crimes. So again, the person that we need to focus on is a director of the Secret Service who explained it to the House or the Senate, one or the other or both. I can't remember. I'm sure both are cognizant of his statements, or should be at least. So the number of people that make these statements has increased, the radicalization. For years, I've been explaining it to all of you and telling you to be careful about it, and it's an issue. And I began saying that probably around 2007, when that Soviet thing became kind of a thing, a fad, Soviet emblems. I say, you got to be careful. These kids are being raised a certain way, and probably maybe, 10 years or less, it's going to start manifesting as a big issue. And of course it did. All right. Got a weird part of the potato here. Let me see if I get this cut. So we get to the point where It was a. It looks like a non-investigation. Forensically, yes. Well, I don't know at what point they check to see if he has weapons. You know, there's calls going in to every agency all day long, including state and local police departments. Sometimes they just hate their neighbor. One of the tricks that like the deep state people will tell you to investigate somebody that they don't like and hopes that you'll find something. So there's a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of people to go through. People that have actually talked about doxing ICE would be a higher priority. I don't know if he said that. If he said that, there might be some problems as to not having seen him. But again, he's in California. Do you know how many people in California say what he said to his sister, to his family? So the family's bringing it up, but they didn't think to bring it up to law enforcement prior to the crime. And that's probably just the psychological effect of having a family member be such a high-level, horrendous criminal. Whereas they want to be free of it. You'll see it a lot of times. They'll be like, "Oh, we have nothing to do with him. He's bad." You know, yes, no, indifferent. As far as what statements the family made, there's nothing really there. Now, if the mother would have seen the shotgun, mother or father saw the shotgun and the pistola, they probably would have made a phone call saying, you know, this is not like him. We're not sure on what he's planning. They may not even allow it in their house. So again, there's ways to detect people like that. It's based upon the numbers of people similar but not dangerous. It costs a lot of money to do that. And then when you fund the program, you have to get it past the Supreme Court. Because the same people interviewing Cash right now and claiming that he should have known, insinuating, will be screaming. Again, this happens every day in the news. Every day. They'll be screaming about privacy and people's rights not to be investigated. So again, they're just scammers. They're just troublemakers, muckrakers that live in the seediest muck of the mind. Because if you would investigate him and he had a problem, and he found out he had a problem, they'd be the first ones to interview him. Oh, they did not have a right to do this to you. And it's because Donald Trump, that's why they did it to you. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, they wouldn't be violating your rights. The same people that go, well, we're hearing that you should have detected this. And they're not ignorant to what they're doing. They think it's funny. So, could the DC Hilton shooter have been federally watched? In a perfect world, anybody could be watched. But it didn't happen for us. Nobody made the magic phone call with the magic evidence that brought it up to reasonable suspicion and or probable cause. Right, you can watch a ham sandwich as long as you have reasonable suspicion or probable cause to do so. Well, there's the other side of it is he commits a crime, you go in without the proper justification, and they throw the evidence out. Because they don't know what they're going to find. Like what you're doing is the same thing that they say in Graham that you can't do. You're having knowledge after the fact and acting as though everybody had that knowledge before and should have known, and that doesn't exist. Because the FBI doesn't know what they're going to find if they look at him, but to look at him at a certain level where they're going into privacy and things like that, and freedom from unreasonable. It's more than even free. The words in the Constitution, the words in the laws, again, there's case law that go beyond generally where the simple words themselves go. Because what you're in your minds, well, this is the shooter, and you're trying to save the president. They don't know if he's the shooter, and we're trying to save the president. For all they know, he's doing something because people think he's committing a crime, and if they go in at the wrong time without the right justification, the whole case is gone. So again, I think people do it knowingly. You're speaking about things that people couldn't have known, and that's the problem. Because I believe he stayed under the radar screen because the radar screen is much different today than it was yesterday. But I used to talk about the radar screen. But at this point, the radar screen is not as clear as it used to be because of all these people that are doing the same thing. People are radicalized, and I think that's an intention of enemies of the United States to radicalize our people. I mean, it's very ignorant to be that radicalized. And there was a cop that actually wrote something. I think I shared it. And he's like, you got to get yourselves out of this BS before you get yourselves into it and ruin your lives. So again, time will tell whether he could have been federally watched. However, it's from what I can tell, he maintained a somewhat low profile, but he's also in California. He's also on Blue Sky. So Jack is going to have to look to see, everybody's going to have to talk to the people at Jack's Blue Sky and say, did anything look out of the ordinary? And they're probably going to say no. Now, he may have made a statement, and if he did, that needs to be worked on, such as, I bought a shotgun for purpose of taking care of this and fixing it. See, at this point, I don't know of any statement such as that. Well, could you say, I'm going to fix the system? I say it all the time, but I mean, I'm going to lobby this, lobby that. Maybe donate some money over here. Yell at Ilhan Omar over there. Yell at Elon over here. So again, I haven't seen any statements that rise to the level of probable cause. I don't even see really reasonable suspicion. Yeah, but he wrote it. He wrote what you're all looking at. He wrote into a manifesto that wasn't received till like 10 p.m. after the crime. So again, I never said that there wasn't evidence post-mortem, although thank God nobody died. And that's the fact that everybody needs to focus on. And the idea is this: They were safe in that room. And they were safer than they were on the street if they walked down the street in DC. Even though Trump did all the stuff, that time of the evening, anything can happen. Crime still exists, albeit less. It's still not Shangri-La. So I don't even, what's his name, Guglielmi or something. The director of the Secret Service, he knows there's an issue, and he alerted the legislature, U.S. legislature, the House and the Senate, that there is an issue, and it's going to require some additional funding. Well, the question is also, it may not be discoverable, but I think it was, as far as his travel combined with, again, this is going to take some advanced AI and, a lot of money and a lot of world of AI, which I don't even know if we can create it. And I said first time travel to DC, and I might be wrong. I don't know where he worked for. He interned at NASA. It is out. It would trigger as far as out of character travel. But how do we get to the point of looking at that? What would trigger that? Again, there's going to be, if we use AI to predict everything in your life, people are going to start challenging that in court. That we're somehow violating privacy. There's already, I already know there's violation of privacy. I'm just, I've spoken on it before, and I'm not, real violation of privacy, using it for corrupt purpose. That's the other part. We have to make sure people don't use it for corrupt purpose. So again, a lot of it is what was said on Blue Sky. And I don't see anything yet that says he said any open threats. Well, if he had articulated an open threat and it was missed, that was the make or break point. Well, because if he articulated open threat and it rose to the level of watching him, his travel would have been monitored, or should have been monitored. And then that would have said, well, what's he do? Here's an example. Tarrio on January 6th, I think, or even before that, there's a couple people in that group that were approached prior to the incident and interviewed. Like, what are you doing here? What are you planning to do? Now, of course, with him, once he checks into the DC hotel, actually probably before that, maybe even. Now, I think that would have been the make or break. So the other question is, did he have reservations for the DC hotel? Again, not saying that would have been something that would have come up. It's just, if he did, then we can try to feed this. We can try to form the system so that it detects something. Again, the travel, then the reservation. My concern would have been the fact that he's a libtard and he bought weapons. I mean, you're allowed to, but again, that's almost out of character. So when we look at the overall, again, certain places in California, where the Nazis live, yeah, a lot of weapons are probably owned in those areas. But he probably does not fit the personality of a weapons purchaser or owner in California. So these are the things that AI would look at or could look at. So again, it takes a triggering event, and I don't think the travel, you could say the travel is and the reservation, but it's not unless something triggers that level of inspection. Now, if you do general monitoring, AI may be able to pick up something. See, DC is a little different too. You can actually, there's a couple of things that fit the average person that comes to DC to commit that crime, like the Terrio and his group of people, and you could possibly have caught him on some AI thing like that, looking for certain indicators. He definitely was discoverable, but it takes something to get to that point of inspection. And I don't think he did that. But if he did, that would be the make or break moment. But again, the director of the Secret Service said, we got so many people to look at now compared to where we once were. And, the Democrats are like, well, you Democrats created these people. You're the ones that made the problem. Now you're asking us why things are being not missed, but why things aren't being found. Nothing's generally being missed mostly. It's just such an animal that it can't be found. There's so many people. I mean, once upon a time, a Mrs. Good would not be like that. They may have been passionate, but not at the level of acting out violently. Freddie. People used to not be like that. There's no reason to be like that. I mean, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, you kick out the taillights of an ICE vehicle, you're going to prison. At least for a year. You're going to have a felony. And again, resist and all the other crazy stuff. Right. So again, you're trying to blame. And again, I think you're all playing a game. I don't think they're unknowing of what they're doing. Because they're the same people that scream privacy, privacy. Unlawful search and seizure. But yet you want law enforcement to figure all this out, which requires a certain level of inspection that may be over that line, which I think that's really where we are. The only way that he would have been detected and inspected sufficiently is that somebody just ignore reasonable suspicion, probable cause. Because a lot of the evidence that you're highlighting in itself is not reasonable suspicion. Your Honor, he said he was going to fix the system. Well, how does that allow you to do this or that? Well, the sister said he's passionate about this or that. Now, that is a psychological thing, but the sister didn't call and said, I'm worried about my brother's attitude. She said it after the fact because she wants the FBI agent to understand that she's not part of that kind of nonsense. And please don't mess up my life. Hey, United States, look, this is what I told them when I knew. The brother called again. Mrs. Good was passionate. Freddie was passionate. You telling us that we need to do something? We needed to do something there? Now we need to let them go because they're great Americans protecting foreign nationals from law enforcement. Well, I don't see anything yet. The idea is that you have to get into somebody's life at that level of inspection. You need a triggering event, and I don't think we have that yet. We might. We'll see. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.